Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better. And today I am very happy to have our guests. They are an ex-chronic stutterer that morphed into an award-winning international touring musician, interviewed on live TV, radio in 2 languages, not 1, but 2. He is the creator of a new public speaking system that turns introverts into charismatic speakers without scripts, without memorization, and without stress. His clients include TV hosts, best-selling authors, and international keynote speakers. He's here to show you how you can have more confidence, charisma, and presence on stage, camera, and anywhere else. They are Sylvain Hache. Sylvain, let's go. Let's just get this party started.
Just pumping it up. There you go.
There we go.
When I grow up, I'll have the radio voice just like you, Phil. When I grow up.
When you grow up. Yeah, I have the face for radio, so it might make sense that I have the voice for radio. Sylvain, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story with us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with, how did you start getting into, first of all, how did you get over your stutter? Because that's huge.
Man, so insane. Funny, just this past Monday, I was interviewed by Raja, Victory Mindset Academy. And the guy is a part-time stutterer. Oh. And preparing for the show, so my preparation for the whole show here is this. So everybody can see that this is my preparation. It's helped me.
Little square.
When I used to work at the bank, 2002, 2004, and I had to psych myself up, a 30-minute routine in the morning just to not barf on my way to work because I hated it so much. And I had to take drugs in the parking lot coming out of there to wash away the memories of that day. And at that time, during these times, I was still kind of a part-time stutterer. So the thing about stuttering is that when you stutter all the time, it doesn't affect you as much as when you stutter some of the time. Because what happens is when somebody stutters full-time, you internally give up, Phil. You're not even trying. You know? So yeah, you have a thought. Say your thought is, could you pass me the salt, please? That's the thought. But it goes, and you know it's going to jam on you. So you kind of give up. Then you do some work. You go see the ear, nose, and throat doctor. You do some therapy. You work on yourself. You do a bunch of stuff for years. And then you decide, and you will. Then at one point you start to you just stutter some of the time. And that's the worst because you never know if it's going to jam on you or not. And I was in my preparation for the show with Raja. I know he's like this, and I know how he feels inside. One of my preparations, and I showed him to on the camera, says, give love to Raja. I want people, and I'm preparing a clip now with my assistant on the video of me explaining to people how big his balls are. So you, Phil, you set up these podcasts. You have your automation cooking, you have your stuff going down, your branding, you're on point, the intro is slick. All good. Imagine if on top of that, and you know how, it's pretty hard. On top of that, you would have to wonder, is the thought that I'm thinking, is it going to come out right just now? See, most people don't even, so we take, now that I speak fluently, we take for granted that whatever we think is going to come out. So anyway, I get on Raja's show, I start talking about this, and I tell him about one time I go and see the Stutterers Association. As you said in the intro, I'm an international touring musician. I was at the gym once and I started thinking to myself, which organization or cause could I represent in the media? If I get interviewed somewhere and I want to send people not only to my business, but if I want to represent some sort of a cause, which would be a good cause that I would be a great spokesperson for and that I could really care about? And I thought of the Stutterers Association. So I go there. One day that I had a show in Montreal, I live in Île-Perrot, right? Just off of Montreal. I got my guitar on. I get there. There's a guy on stage making his university thesis, explaining to people that they figured out the reason why people stutter is because they have no rhythm. Because they had, so they played these rhythms, and then people would have to play them back. And if they were off by more than X milliseconds, they were more inclined to stutter. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is the biggest load of bullshit I ever heard in my entire life. Phil, I started playing drums at 3 years old. I have songs on the radio that I've played all the instruments on and I've sung on and they played in the radio here in Quebec, okay? I can play samba, songo rhythms on the drums. I taught drums, I taught bass, I taught guitar. I got rhythm. And this guy's telling me, you're telling me I stuttered for 5, 6, 7 years chronically, then 20, 30 years, on the side, sporadically.
Part-time stutterer.
Yeah, part-time stutter because I have no rhythm. This is the biggest load of bullshit I ever heard. So I don't say anything. I'm a polite guy. Don't say anything. Lucky me, the table where I'm seated, the guy comes in right next to me after his talk. And I say to him politely, man, you might want to reconsider your stuff. And I tell him the thing about me being a musician. I got my case here, my guitar. I'm about to go do a show now. I got rhythm. So you might want to reconsider that. So anyway, I go see the ENT doctor after the whole thing. I go see the ENT doctor and I tell her, I just want to thank you for the work that you do. You've dedicated your life to helping people. And when I was a kid, that ear, nose, and throat doctor told me, when a plane takes off, it doesn't just go, phew! It preps the engine, it sets itself up, and it kind of ramps up, and then it goes. And that helped me a lot in the beginning. Stop stuttering all the time. So there's mechanical techniques, but in my case, it's an internal job. There's nothing wrong, Phil, with the voice box of a stutterer. I don't know if you can see, but I have a scar here. Someone tried to slit my throat once with a knife, and I just got back, just like this. Now, this could have caused damage to the throat. A knife will cause damage. So that's like someone saying, I have a bit of a trauma, or I hurt my back. Well, you were playing football, and somebody rammed you, and your vertebrae went click. Well, that makes sense. But if you're just standing there, and your back start hurting, then you might want to start considering maybe emotional issues. Maybe trauma, maybe inner dialogue, maybe your energy and all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. So the knife incident happened later on in life than when I started stuttering. So regular boy goes to school one day, gets beat up or something really bad happened that is to this day still blocked from my awareness. I can't see it. Come back, stutter for years. Then part-time, then not at all. But at the end, the thing that nailed the coffin was a decision. So after the physical work, after the training, the years of suffering and humiliation and being laughed at, it's just insane. Because I know what it feels to be laughed at and humiliated by the ladies, if you know what I mean, to being on stage and not being humiliated anymore. There's a difference there. And this is quite of a range. So when someone comes to me and says, I'm afraid of public speaking, and they're not a stutterer, they say, I'm afraid of public speaking and I'm shy. So I have a thing called the presence scale. So there's shy, regular shy people. Then there's employee of the month. All right, you get on there. And then there's executive of the year. And then there's, like TV stars and rock stars and stuff like that. So there's a scale. But below shy is stutterer. So the thing is, I started below shy people. And now I'm coaching TV hosts and international keynote speakers. So when someone comes to me and says, I'm shy and I'm a bit afraid and I have to speak for 30 people next week. You see, the great thing is I'm not impressed by the severity of their problems. Because I started lower than where they are and I teach people, let's say higher, quote unquote, than where they want to be at, then I have the range to do that. So I could have never predicted that stuttering would have turned out to be a great thing for me. But if I ever write, I'm thinking about writing a thing called l'éloge du bégaiement in French. That would be like the eulogy of stuttering. So I haven't figured out, but I'm thinking of writing because it brought me so many things, including the confidence to know that internal change is possible. Not just some hairy fairy, think about stuff in the sky. No, actual real changes that you can have in your body, in your feeling, in your sense of self, and in your confidence that translates to stage camera, and meetings.
I love it. And it's true. Like I never had that fear of public speaking. I didn't have a stutter. So one, I didn't have to go there, but like, I never understood why people, like, for me, it was French. I'm in Montreal, I'm in Laval right now in between two studios. So whenever I speak French, I'm always self-conscious of that. Even though my friends say, no, you speak great French, you're fine, like you're fully under. I just, because of like trauma from youth, people making fun of my accent and all that, I get staged. But I could talk for hours. Like that's why I have a podcast, really.
Yeah.
So I can talk, right? But I love how you said like stutterers are just below shy people.
It's worse.
I can only imagine.
Like they're prey. If only I could be like a regular person and just be terrified of public speaking. I mean, that would be great. I mean, if only, please God, please get me up to just terrified. That would be perfect. Because at least you're terrified, but whatever you think comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's incredible. And the thing is, no stutterer stutters in their mind. So when a stutterer goes, and just, makes a fool of himself or herself, his mind is screaming, "What's wrong with you, idiot?" The mind doesn't stutter at all. That's the thing. Sorry if I just clipped the mic there, but it's what it is. And some people, like, I was talking to this with Raja, because he understands, like, if you have not gone through that, it's hard. Like, I stopped smoking cigarettes. I have a joke saying, smoking cigarettes, that's easy to stop. I stopped like 40 times. Easy, right? So if somebody hasn't gone through stuttering, they don't know how bad it is. Mm-hmm. If somebody has not smoked, they don't know how bad it is to try to stop smoking. But we're saying to them, some people do not stutter physically, but it's as if their mind stutters. That's an idea I'm developing with him. It's like, it's true. So their voice will say whatever they want to say, but for some reason, when they get in front of an audience, they just jam up and clam up. But the worst I've seen is the CEO, the boss, the leader, the person who's confident one-on-one settings. So I used to be hired a lot as a corporate entertainer, and you see like these laser-eyed people backstage. So I'm hired by a corporation, and I'm speaking with the CEO backstage. You can't bullshit that person. Will sniff bullshit a mile away. Owns the room. Confident. Poised, right? They call it heft. Like, don't mess with that person. Even non-verbally. You understand this is somebody that respects himself. Don't waste my time. Kind of stuff. So we're vibing. Cool. We got that thing going. We're connecting. Then I would see these people walk towards the stage with a written speech like this, and I would see them transform into a smaller person. They go like, and then they would just deliver a shitty speech to the audience. I was used to think to myself, what's wrong with these people? What's going on here? This is their people, and the only reason people are not leaving the room is because that's the boss. So I came up with a concept called office-itis.
Office-itis.
Office-itis is the deluxe version. If you want to go bad, you got cubicle-itis. So cubicle-itis is when you wake up in the morning, you do your little job that you hate or you don't like, and you're used to having your energy be the size of a cubicle. You're speaking on a little phony thing here that's close to your mouth, and you got little headphones in, and you don't want anything to be loud, and you got to stay within the cubicle, and you just do your thing, and you just shut the hell up, and don't think outside the box. That's your thing. Then when you get the deluxe version of that, you get office-itis. Then your energy is the size of the office. So and these people are masters at one-on-one. Mm-hmm. I teach public speaking from 3 people to 3,000-ish, right? So it doesn't, 1-on-2, 1-on-1, that's not what I teach. I see 3 and more, 3, 10, 30, 300, 3,000. So these people are used to one-on-one, so they calibrate. They say something, then they calibrate the body language, the nostrils, how they take the reaction, the breathing, how they lean in, how they lean back, and they calibrate that. It's like jiu-jitsu. They're negotiators one-on-one. So when you put 2, well, then they got to go like that all the time, but they can still put it off because they can say something and they can, out of the corner of their eye, they can see the other person reacting. the good cop, bad cop. They got a bunch of, these are expert negotiators. Don't mess with them. Put in front of 3 people, now you go to peripheral vision, and then you can't calibrate individually. They lose their comfort zone. But the worst thing that happens, well, the best thing for me to get clients, but the worst thing that happens.
Worse for them, good for you.
Yeah, it's good for me. The worst thing that happens is that when they step on a physical stage on an audience, in front of an audience of 300 people, then the imaginary name tag they have at the office and the size of their energy bubble, which is usually the size of their office on their big desk, right? That just kind of vanishes away. Then it's physical, beast, human, smaller than big crowd, and you have to convince using ideas and not just calibration. Ideas that have been thought up in advance, and you need to match, I call it charismatic messaging. You need to match the subconscious, deeply held, self-fueled belief of the audience to what you want them to do. And when that's a match, you have unconscious rapport and effortless influence. But if you're trying to arm wrestle or jujitsu your way or NLP your way out of conversions, buying, or sales, you're screwed because you can't calibrate.
I'm thinking, I'm like, oh my God, because I'm thinking about all these great public speakers, like, you know, the Russell Brunsons, the Tony Robbins, and it's more charisma. Like you said, they don't have that office, and obviously one-on-one, they're probably insanely talented to talk with, and these people that just own the room because they're so used to being like public speakers are a completely different game. And we've been lucky enough to have some previous guests that do public speaking, TEDxers, TED Talks, and ones who run their own events. And their presence one-on-one is just like they're on stage. So they don't have, like you said, the deluxe, the office energy or the cubicle energy. They have the room energy. Like whatever room they go in, they just own that room. How did you come to find your energy to own that room as an ex-stutterer?
The first time my first public experience of speaking on stage was a guaranteed train wreck in the making. I knew it. Everybody in the audience knew it. I had to go read in church. Some sort of for like first communion or one of these things we used to do at school. I had to go do that, and it was at church, a ceremony. While walking up to the thing, I'm totally caved in, shy, self-conscious. I'm worried about me. What will they think? And at one point, since I know I internally give up, some people would call that surrender to God. It's like surrender to, there go, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There was some of that going on. So I walked up, and then when that unclicked, when that, oh my God, what are they going to think? Let go. And what allowed me to do that, it was an acceptance of what was going to happen, because I know it wasn't going to get any better in the next 7 seconds. I was going to get laughed at. Everybody knew it. It's just going to go as it is. So I just walked there. Then I walk on the stage of the church at like 3 steps. And when I turn on there, my body kind of becomes alive. Like I call it now when I teach, it's beast mode activation. It kind of comes alive. How to harness, how to let adrenaline flow and let your breath adjust your body, not the other way around. Not power posing, but real natural flows going on in the body. So that thing just kind of happened. I was like, oh, wow, what's going on? Then I walked to the podium and I put my hands on the podium like this. And for a second and a half, I just scanned the room kind of like this, right? Just gently scan the room. And in that moment, my bubble, like if I were to get too close to you, Phil, right? You're like, hey man, back up. I got my bubble. We're friends. We're cool. But come on. All right, I got my bubble. They don't have that in Asia. I spend a lot of time in Asia. They don't have that. Their sense of self ends at the skin. That's just, they're rubbing each other all the time. Like on the street, you can bump into someone, no problem. So anyway, my personal sense of a bubble went whoosh, and it encompassed the whole church. So it's not like there's me here, and then there's the audience looking at me, and there's something else, because my sense of a bubble was behind them. So all of a sudden, talk about inclusion, that's inclusion right there for you. And as I'm wondering, am I the only one feeling this? One of my uncle when my uncles shouts, and right, I've spent some time playing with black musicians, and they brought me in their church, and I've played in their church. This is shout, get up and dance church. I've been there. This is white, small village, shut up and look down and don't make a noise church. Now, so I get there, I put my hands on the thing, it goes like that, and I'm just looking around for a second. Then my uncle shouts, "Oh my God, we have a real one in the family." He just shouts in the church.
Wow.
So I got it one time for free. This presence thing that I teach now. One time. Now, had I gone it one time for free, I couldn't teach that. That was just like what was that? Then I lost it. And then through 30 some years of getting laughed at and drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and international touring and therapy and coaching and all this stuff, I kind of had the North Star to know what it's supposed to be like. I know what it's supposed to feel. So I had a North Star. So as if my whole life was framed around getting that back unconsciously. So since I got it one time for free, then suffered years and years and decades to get it back, now I can teach it step by step in a method because I've gone through it consciously the second time around. If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Like you had a taste of the sweet nectar of being the presence inside church, which is even like it's like God sent, if you will. Like God is like, "Hey kid, this is what you're supposed to do. What's wrong with you?" And then he's like, "Well, you're not following it. We're gonna teach you how to get it."
Just a snap of the finger. Yeah, that's like that.
Just boom. Speaking of that, like, if you had to give a tip to someone who's about to go on stage, they don't have time to run through your whole program of getting up to the confidence to be able to handle that whole stage and be the presence that they need, but they just need that like maybe one quick tip to get them like a little over the hump of just like, okay, getting out of their mind. Because the biggest problem is it's all in the mind, right? With public speaking, what kind of tip or advice would you give them?
It's not going to get any better in the next 7 seconds.
Yeah, that's very simple, very to the point. I love it. And
might as well, yeah. So it's just might as well go with what you got. Miracles can happen, but don't bet on it. It can happen. So in the next 7 seconds, do I have time to tell the opposite?
No, you have.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to go with the opposite of that.
Okay.
So when I finally found the courage to quit my comfy day job at the bank and went on to entrepreneurship, one of the first things I did, we started a company in the personal development field. And long story short, 2 years after, the biggest contract we had we were presenting Deepak Chopra when he came to Montreal. For those of you who don't know Deepak Chopra, that's like the Tiger Woods of personal development. It's like a huge star in the States and bestseller and all that. So he comes here, and I'm on stage presenting him. And I'm self-conscious about stuttering on stage. I have too many objectives in my mind. I have 5 minutes to speak, and I have 7 objectives. So my tip for the person that Phil just asked is you have to have one objective, not 5, not 7, not 12, not 1. The longer you speak, the more you can have. But if you have a quick thing to do, it's one objective. I have 5 minutes, 7 objectives. A surprise, selling a VIP upgrade, there's too much going on for 5 minutes. And at that time, I'm self-conscious. So the direction of my energy in the church was woof. Now it was this way. So what did that do? You cave in. And then my sense of a bubble was my only self. And I could feel the gaze and this was a spiritual crowd. And spiritual crowds or advanced meditators tend to have a stronger gaze than regular crowds. Don't know why. It seems to happen. So I remember thinking, wow, that audience is pretty strong. And I had the bad reflex of trying to arm wrestle or jujitsu the audience, which you can't. There were like 2,000 people. I was one. Self-conscious. Right? Is that going to jam on me? It's like, So I'm thinking about that. Too many objectives. All of a sudden, in the church, the bubble is big. I can almost read through people. I can see them squirm. It's like X-ray vision. This is the opposite. Vision gets blurry. I only see the microphone. All the sounds, my internal thoughts become louder than the ambient noises, and I start to freak out and I cave in and I literally feel like disappearing. Like this, having a panic attack, but I'm talking the whole time. So that's no results, no buy-in. You know, these people, when you see someone on stage, people are like, can't wait for this guy to finish for the real one to come. That, mixed with a panic attack. This means that nobody came and went to the table to even ask about the VIP upgrade that we had rented a room for, and we lost money on that particular deal. We made money on the rest of it, but we lost money on that VIP upgrade. Fast forward a few years when I have to go, like today, I'm loving this. I'm speaking with Phil at 1:30, I'm making a coffee, 1:25, walk in here, flick on the camera and go, no traffic. This one time from the same trip, from the coffee machine to here, I had 5 minutes to speak to 70 entrepreneurs. And I had a thought. That's a tip for you again. Think about one thing, simple things. I said, rather than speak about my system, and the goal was to get them to register for a 3-day event, I said, let me use the system to sell the system. So they present me, like there's the intro, blah, blah, blah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, slide. And I say, hey, thank you for having me. This is great. I got to tell you though, I read an article 1.5 years ago saying that if you get a deep tissue massage once a week, you'll be more productive as an entrepreneur. Who doesn't like, right, Phil? Productivity.
Everybody wants that, yeah.
So I said, okay, in the name of productivity, I'll sacrifice myself and I'll go get a deep tissue massage. So it's been 1.5 years every
Thank
week
you for
now.
that sacrifice for us.
That's what I've been doing. So I've been doing 90 minutes a week, deep tissue massage. Found the best therapist close to my house. She couldn't be there for 2 weeks, so I booked some other place. I go there at that other place. And what I liked about mine is that she would dig in so deep, like with the elbow, and you can feel it snack, crackle, and pop so deep with the elbow. But the thing is, after one pass, once the muscle have relaxed enough, she would go deeper or change the angle based on what problem she had resolved. Anyway, I go to that other therapist. I book a deep tissue massage, 90 minutes. That thing goes in here with cold hand cream and kind of like this.
Oh.
I'm thinking, what's going on with that thing? And this is the longest 90 minutes of my life. Turns out she was into it. She gave me 2 hours. So it's not about the time you give. Now, the main thing is that if your messaging as an entrepreneur feels like that to your audience, if you're not going deep enough, and if the body of the pain of your target market doesn't feel like that once you resolve that problem, you have what it takes and the sensibility to fix the next problem, you have a problem. If you want to know how to do that with just words, we have a workshop coming up in 3 days. Man, 60% of the audience registered in less than 5 minutes, and 40 people decided to become an affiliate. Well, I'm sorry, the numbers, like, whatever the numbers were. 70 people, 50% of the audience became affiliates, meaning, for those who don't know, they decided to start promoting my services to their audience in 5 minutes. And 60 or some people registered for the event. Now, the same 5 minutes, the same person, the direction of my energy. The first one is am I good enough? And I will think about presence formula, charisma formula, blah, blah, blah. I was caved in, self-conscious. 0% conversion rate, panic attack. Fast forward a few years, that direction in helping them make more money in their business with an analogy about massages, right? With an elbow, and 60, whatever, the 70% conversion rate. So that's the power of where you put your focus, where you put your energy, and how you use your messaging to create. Actually, to make people feel like doing the thing you want them to before you ask them.
Mind blown. I can't wait to re-listen to this episode because I know I missed a whole bunch of golden nuggets that you were saying because I was just enthralled with what you're saying. And so obviously you know what you're doing as a public speaker and teaching this because you've gotten me enthralled, someone who has had over 200 interviews with amazing entrepreneurs. So thank you very much. We're going to jump to the spark question of the show. What is a goal you recently accomplished?
A goal I recently accomplished. Getting to bed earlier. Good Lord. I've spent, because of my background as a musician, I went to bed more times at 4 a.m. than I woken up at 4 a.m. in my life. Yeah.
I feel that.
So,
working the night shift and that, yeah.
There you go. Worked in bars, international touring, finishing the show and all that. So the gradually getting earlier and earlier to bed. Now I'm aiming for 10, so I'm landing around 11-ish, but sometimes 10. So that's a main thing for me, for health, energy, and purpose and focus, because I wake up early in the morning to do some things. So if I go to bed too late, then the productivity, even if I get the massages, the productivity in the morning suffers, which then once the busy work starts, you're screwed. Anyway, I'm screwed.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Sly, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to let my audience know where they can connect with you, how they can look at joining your programs and that, so that they can get over their fear of public speaking and become an international award-winning musician, public speaker. So the floor is yours, sir.
Thanks, Phil. So anybody watching here, especially, I'm thinking about you. If I would be speaking to me in 2002, 2004-ish, man, there's a thing called rectal myopia. You got to get your own head out of your ass if you want to get somewhere. That's number one. That's me speaking to me from the past. Get your head out of your ass. And for people that are listening that want some help about this, go to nextlevelpublicspeaking.com. There's a thing where it says free resources. You can click on there or watch the training. The training is called Unleash Introverted Confidence, Charisma, and Presence. It's free. And then you're going to get emails as a follow-up. And in the footer of these emails, I've been told by 2 different people just 2 weeks ago, there's more of transformational value in the free resources in the footer of these emails than what people have paid thousands for. And some other people said, I've been struggling with this for years, and in 3 days of binge watching everything there, it just clicks. So go to nextlevelpublicspeaking.com, click on the thing, register, and watch the training. Thanks.
Sly, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing it. I'm going to be signing up because, hey, more resources for me is better. Become a better public speaker. Before I get onto those stages and start owning the crowds like you do. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Beautiful. Thank you for having me. Thanks, everyone.
To my audience, before we leave, remember, check out the show notes down below to connect with Sly and to check out the free resources he has. And always remember to invest in yourself.